age of 40 and you're approaching the next phase of your life, which is that big M word, menopause, this Facebook Live is definitely for you. So I'm Marissa from Rise High, and this is
Megan from Mimi Moon Meno.
And today we're doing a whole session purely dedicated to females over the age of 40, 45 and beyond, because we want to make sure that they can not only financially survive, but also thrive.
During menopause and beyond.
Absolutely, and there are some interesting challenges that women face during that period of their life.
There is.
So today what we're going to do is explore some of those challenges, explore why some of these things happen, and really explore what women can do to protect themselves from these challenges, set themselves up, and make sure that they can not only survive menopause, but thrive. That's right. So thank you so much for joining us. We are taking questions live today as well. So if you do have a question, please throw it in the comments section below. We also will have the opportunity to take some anonymous questions after the segment if you'd like to do that as well. We also have a wonderful freebie giveaway, don't we, Megan?
Yes, it's a 2-pager of how to survive menopause, and it's based on my motto of movement, mindset and modify, the 3 things that have helped me with my journey, and also to help you all understand what the symptoms look like, because there's something like 40 symptoms that you may be experiencing during this time, and if you don't know what they are, you can end up potentially, like me, being misdiagnosed and going down a path that you could avoid if you know what those things are.
So that's a wonderful little freebie that you can access, which we will have available for you following this Facebook Live once we load it up as a blog on the Rise High Financial Solutions website and load it up onto the YouTube page, Rise High TV. But let's get into the topic, let's get into the guts of it, because it is a big topic, and you know, at Rise High, we're really passionate about supporting women, as I know you are, Megan, and particularly financial literacy education and helping women to thrive financially is one of our passion areas. So combining your passion area of helping women through menopause and our passion area of helping women with their financial literacy and thriving financially, it's a really good combo. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It's wonderful to meet another female that's just so passionate about making a difference. And really helping others to live the life of their dreams.
That's right.
And that's what it's all about ultimately, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. It's really about women understanding the changes that they're about to go through and being prepared for that, rather than sort of hitting a brick wall and going, oh my God, what's happening to me? It's really about knowing that this is going to come and what are the things that I can put in place now to make sure that I continue through. I call it vibrating positively through the next phase of their life.
And one of the reasons why I was really excited to run this topic with you today is because the stats are actually showing that women aged over 45 years is the fastest rate of homelessness in Australia.
So Generation X women, and this is really the driving force behind what I'm doing. So my profession for the last 20-something years has been in social housing, and during that time I became aware of Generation X, my generation, your generation, becoming the fastest growing homeless cohort. And what I realised was that there's a common denominating factor, and that's menopause, and no one's talking about it. But some of the things that lead to homelessness and that relate to finances and also menopause is that relationships break down, something around the area of 70%. And so if you're a midwife...
So 70% of relationships break down during menopause?
During menopause.
As a result of menopause?
Partly as a result of menopause. I guess, you could probably break it down and get really deeply into it, but it's just that 70% of relationship breakdowns happen at this time.
Wow, that's a big number, isn't it?
It really is a big number. And so from a financial perspective, if that's where you find yourself and you weren't expecting that to happen, well, all of a sudden you're going, well, what money have I got? What assets have I got? What does that look like for me? And that is a contributing factor, a key contributing factor to women's homelessness. The other one is family and domestic violence. So that increases by 30% during this time of our life.
Wow.
And again, a lot of women that have experienced that really experience also financial difficulties. So
Absolutely.
really key factor in thinking through those things for your menopause. A couple of other things that come to front of mind for women and homelessness at this time and menopause is that we tend to take extended periods of time out of the workforce between the ages of 45 and 64. So if you get to this stage of your life and you've already taken time out to raise a family, and then all of a sudden you find yourself unwell and needing to take some time out of the workforce, again your finances come into acute perspective. What have I got? Can I afford this?
Yes.
And lastly, there's the super pay gap, big contributing factor to women's homelessness. And again, if you've taken time out of the workforce and get to this stage, that's something that you start to think about.
And I think, I agree with all those factors, and I think being left newly single, I'll say, at that age, can have such a big impact on all areas of your life. But financially, if you haven't been someone who's taken active participation in managing your family's finances and understanding your family's finances at the point of a separation, or potentially even death of a partner. There's different reasons why relationships can break down. It can put you in a really difficult position.
Yes.
Or if you've allowed your partner to manage everything without you actually understanding it, that can also be a little bit dangerous, can't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, and that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you, was hearing you speak at International Women's Day, and learning that so many women don't understand their finances, don't know what's coming in and out of the bank account. I just think, oh God, that's terrifying.
It's really sad.
And if that's our generation, what's the next generation doing? If we're not able to educate ourselves, how does that impact the women that are coming after us? So,
well, the saddest part about that, Megan, is that it's actually, the statistics are even worse for our younger generation. With the new statistics coming through, it's showing that more and more females are lacking confidence in understanding money. And understanding how to use money and understanding the importance of super and preparing for their future. These are big, important topics that we can't just put our head in the sand.
No.
Men are not your financial plan.
No.
You need to really grab it with two hands, understand it, and if it is something that you find challenging, find someone that you can work with, that can sort of explain it to you in a way that you understand. Someone that you trust that's an expert outside of your partner, outside of your family or friends, just so that you can have that independent, expertise and understanding of where your money's going, what structures you and your partner might have in place. What is happening for your future. And as much as we don't like to think about relationships breaking down, we need to think about what we might do if that was to happen. So that we're not sort of left stranded or left in the lurch, and we sort of know that we have a plan.
Correct. And I think the other thing, something that I've heard you speak about before is, and something that contributes to relationships failing, is finances, and not being able to speak with your partner about finances.
Absolutely.
So how would you, for women tuning in now, if they're in a situation where they just don't know what's going on, how would they approach that with their partner, whoever they're in the financial relationship with?
It's such a great question, Megan. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because money's a really difficult topic in relationships. And it's actually something that people get quite scared to talk about. And I think there's actually some funny adverts on TV at the moment that show that people would rather do almost anything, than talk about money with their partner or with their family and friends, which we have to sort of start to change that culture, because money shouldn't be a secret topic, especially in a romantic relationship. You should be able to talk to your partner about money matters. Best practice is to have a regular money date, or what I like to call a money date, where you organise to meet at a regular time. Maybe you can go out and get some takeaway, or in a time when you don't have kids around and no distractions, where you can actually just sit down and have a discussion. And in a money date, it's really important to talk about where you're at now, what your goals and dreams are for the future, because when you're in a partnership, you want to make sure to some extent that those goals and dreams are aligned, or that you at least have an understanding of what each person wants out of the finances. And these are times when you can talk about some fun things, like how can we plan for a holiday, how can we plan for our retirement and our future. But it's also a time to have some tougher discussions of, what are the things that we need to make some compromises on, or how can we work better together to, move closer to our dreams and goals. Now, that's not always easy for every couple. In some relationships, what we often see in our work is that in every relationship there normally is someone who takes a dominant role in making the money decisions, and someone that takes a more passive role. And that's okay, as long as the person that takes a passive role is actively involved and doesn't feel excluded by the person taking the dominant role. That's really the key here. In situations where a female is looking to get some answers from her partner and wants to have more discussion, but her partner's not open to that, that is, in a way, a form of domestic violence. It's a way that person is exerting control over the female to exclude them from understanding the financial position and exclude them from being a person that could be self-sufficient.
Correct.
And that's a bit alarming. So if you're in that situation, then definitely I would seek advice and support. Especially if you are signing up to loan agreements or having debt in your name where you don't really understand what you're taking out the debt for. Especially if you're signing any documentation, make sure that you have. If you don't feel comfortable doing it with your partner, speak one-on-one with your mortgage broker or with your accountant, just to ask them the questions.
And make sure you understand what you're signing.
Make sure you understand what you're signing. Make sure you're not being pressured into signing something. If you are, find a way to let someone know. Because you don't have to face this alone.
That's exactly right. And that's the same with menopause. It's really about getting women speaking openly and discussing things openly, and sharing stories, sharing experiences. So whatever those experiences are, coming together and sharing and reaching out, and it's exactly the same.
And they're both really taboo topics, aren't they? Money and menopause.
100%. No one likes speaking about either of them.
But they're reality.
They are reality.
All women that have to eventually go through menopause, or if they're fortunate enough to live through that.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. We're all going there. We're all going to experience it. The good and the bad thing about menopause is that not everyone will have a negative experience. I want to say that first, because it can be a scary thing. And I know there's some people that you bring up menopause with and they're like, no, I don't want to talk about it. No, don't want to hear about it. It's negative. There's a lot of positive things that come out of menopause as well, but there are, for 80% of us, we will have symptoms that are mild to extreme. That does impact every part of your life, and so it's really about talking about it and saying, well, have you experienced for example, a night sweat? Someone might experience that. Someone may be having a hot flush in your office and you don't know how to, they don't know what to do, they're feeling embarrassed. And it could just be as simple as saying, hey, can I, get you a cold glass of water? Simple things like that, rather than feeling shame and embarrassment, just saying, hey, it's a natural thing that's going on. How can I help you?
Well, can we talk a little bit more about menopause?
Yes.
And I guess how women can identify that they're going into this phase.
Yes.
And some of the things that they can do to help themselves thrive.
Yes.
During this phase of their life, so that they don't have the significant life and financial impacts that can sometimes happen
Yeah.
when there's so much change within them.
Yes, definitely.
So what are some of the things that, you've mentioned a few early symptoms already,
Yeah.
but what are some of the things that can alert people to the fact that, okay, maybe they're entering this phase of their life,
Yeah.
these are the sorts of things they should be looking to do to thrive during this period of time?
Yeah.
Can you give us some guidance around those?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I'll just clarify what menopause is, because
Yes.
menopause is covering off on 3 stages of this transition. So the first stage of the transition is perimenopause,
Yep.
and that's when you're going to start to notice the most symptoms. That's where 80% of the disruption will occur.
And what age group is that normally?
It varies. So for me, mine started around, I say 38, but actually now that I've got education and 2020 hindsight, my menopause started around 36.
Okay, so it can start in your 30s.
Correct. And but for most women, your menopause will start around 45. Your I should clarify, perimenopause around 45, and menopause happens generally around 51. So perimenopause is the start of everything. Your estrogen is declining. It's the transition between being reproductive to post-reproductive. Menopause is 12 months plus 1 day with no period, and then following that, it's post-menopause. So that's what menopause is collectively: peri-menopause, menopause, and post-menopause.
Yeah.
And women spend the majority of their life in menopause. So it's really important.
So we have to get comfortable within that phase.
You have to get comfortable, and you have to really look after yourself. So my mantra is movement, mindset, modify. And the reason I came up with that was because of my own experience. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I thought I could do the things that I used to do, and you can't. You've got to adjust, you've got to change, because your estrogen levels are declining. So there's just, different things that go on for you. Sorry, before I go into that, I was just going to say, of the symptoms, there's about 45, and I realise that your viewers won't see this, but it's on the handout.
Wow, look at these. These are great, aren't they?
Yeah, so I've put this into a spiral because your symptoms can very quickly...
Is this on your website?
It's on the handout.
It's on the handout.
There is
so
a list of symptoms on the website. Yeah.
The freebie that our viewers can download.
Correct, yeah. So the reason I've put it in a spiral is because if you don't understand what's going on, which is what happened to me, I felt like I was going in a spiral of never-ending symptoms that no one was explaining to me. However, once you understand that, your night sweats and lack of sleep is one of the first things to happen. Your anxiety may increase. That's another thing that happens. The self-doubt, that's a really big thing for a lot of women, and depression.
Yeah.
And if you've never experienced those things before, it can be very confronting. Body pain, frozen shoulders, there's a lot of things, a lot of symptoms that occur that you can easily put down to, I did a run on the weekend and that's why I'm hurting. Or I had an extra glass of wine with dinner and that's why I'm not sleeping. Or, someone might say something that upset you and that's why you're feeling anxious. So it's those things that you want to be able to go, right, what is actually happening to me? Is this a regular occurrence? And can I collectively bring these things together and say, yeah, I think I might be experiencing perimenopause.
It's a bit of the same as how you should manage your finances.
Yeah.
The first step is just to have an awareness of where you are and what challenges you're facing.
Exactly.
And what your goals are.
Yeah.
And then to be able to sit down and put a plan in place.
Yes.
You mentioned a couple of symptoms there which I think are so significant in terms of finances. You mentioned self-doubt and anxiety.
Yes.
And we've definitely seen that, with women in that period of their life where they are struggling with a bit more self-doubt, anxiety, lack of confidence.
Yes.
That really flows through in a massive way to their finances.
Yeah, well, to every decision in life.
Every decision, but finances in particular seem so big and scary that women can just put their hands in there and say, I don't know anymore, and just leave it to someone else.
Yeah.
And we've even seen situations where women that are really capable, that have been really actively involved in managing their finances and making big finance decisions, get to a point where they have, dropped their confidence and their self-belief so much during that period that at that point in time, they just throw their hands in there and they just don't want to know about it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a really sad thing, because that's the time that almost they need to
Really think about.
it the most.
Correct.
Because many women will end up being on their own at some point in time in the future.
Yes.
Whether it's because of death of a partner or, like you said, a relationship breakdown.
Yep.
You need to expect that there will be a time in the future where you will have to do things on your own.
Yeah, where you're going to need to be responsible for what income you've got and how you're spending it. I think the other thing that catches a lot of women by surprise with menopause and money is all the unexpected costs. So medical costs, specialist costs, testing costs, they're sort of the obvious ones.
Yes.
But for example, you don't expect that you're going to have to change all of your bed linen. So I just simply cannot sleep in anything but flax linen. And I don't know if you sleep on flax linen. But that bed linen is very expensive. so you've got to weigh out, am I sleeping or am I, spending money on some linen and some technical clothing that's allowing my body to breathe so that I can get a good night's sleep.
And you may, depending on your symptoms, you may not necessarily be able to work to the same extent that you were working previously.
That's exactly
right. Which can also have an impact on your financial well-being.
If you're not sleeping, you're not able to work properly, if you're not able to concentrate, is that spiral.
And that just makes it, that's a really good point to sort of show how important it is to have a safety net of emergency fund savings and to almost financially prepare for this stage of your life, financially prepare for a reduction of your work hours, a reduction of your productivity, an increase to your medical and wellbeing expenses, and actually just be ready for this.
Well, how do women get ready for that though, Marissa? Because I guess, and that's a concern that I hear a lot from women, is they hit this time in their life and then all of a sudden they realise they don't have enough super, they don't have savings for a rainy day. So they've got these costs and other expenses they weren't anticipating.
Yes.
So how do women plan for this? Like what would be your recommendation?
Yeah, well, I guess the first thing that's probably fairly obvious is the sooner you start planning for it, the better.
Correct.
So even if even if you're watching this video, I think as women, it's our duty to prepare the next generation of women for the future as well. So as much as it is about starting as soon as you can for yourself, it's also how do we educate our daughters and our nieces and the younger women in our lives to actually start preparing for this sooner rather than later. Yeah. And it's what I like to call pay yourself first. Yeah. So many Australians, it's not just women, it's also men. We have a tendency of spending everything we make. We get money in, we see it, we spend it. And we save whatever's left over. The thing is, there's not always money left over or enough left over, and we're not really forward thinking. We have a bit of a she'll be right attitude in Australia, which is not serving people well in terms of setting themselves up for their financial future. So instead of the she'll be right attitude, it's really about as soon as you can, sitting down with your mortgage broker, sitting down with a financial planner or an accountant, someone professional, and talking to them about where your current situation is and getting a real awareness of where your current situation is. Sitting down with them to work out how you can build up an emergency fund of up to 6 months of living expenses. Many women don't actually even know what their monthly living expenses are. But sitting down with someone, an expert, like we can sit down with someone for free and actually go through what their living expenses have been for the last 6 months, so they can first have an awareness of what they're living, where their money's actually going, and then we can plan moving forward where their money should be going in the future, so that they can actually start putting a plan in place where they're paying themselves first to build up that emergency savings buffer of 6 months worth of living expenses. So they've got that as a protection. Right? Once we've set that up, the next thing is how do we build some wealth for them in the future that can bridge the gap of that their super, the lack of super is going to feel like. We want them to make sure that when they stop working, when they retire, they are going to have a passive income that can support a comfortable lifestyle.
And that's what it is, it's a comfortable life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about being rich and, driving fancy cars.
It's
actually
about a
having
comfortable life. People think that investing and planning for the future is just for the rich.
Yeah.
But actually, everyone needs to do it.
Yes.
Because the pension's never really enough.
No.
People need to take responsibility of their own financial future. And like I said, the sooner you start, the better. But then again, it's never too late.
Yeah.
So I don't want people that are a little bit older watching this to feel like they've missed the boat, because you haven't. The sooner the better.
Yes.
But never too late, but also don't procrastinate.
Yeah.
Get on with it.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a lot of free support out there for women.
Yeah.
At Rise High, we provide a fee-free service.
Yeah.
Where we can sit down with someone, have a look at their living expenses, talk about where they are now, what their goals are, help put a plan in place. There's lots of great organisations that can provide that free support. Women just have to be brave enough to seek it.
That's right. Yeah. And it's the same with menopause. So that's part of the service I provide. I'm actually a project manager by trade. So I find that the most important thing in menopause is really sitting down and going, right, where am I at right now?
Yes.
Where do I want to be? And how am I going to get there? And really putting in little steps around movement, mindset, modify, putting those actions in place. And the modify part could be around, what am I doing with my finances? Or it could be as simple as, am I going to stop drinking alcohol for a little while, for example.
Yeah.
But, you cover the whole thing so that you do have a comfortable and a healthy life. And again, I call it having positive vibrations, because it's really easy to get into a negative space during this transition. But if you're the one that's taking the first step and you're the one that's making your action, or putting the actions into place out of your plan, then you can feel confident that you're doing something and you know what's going on and things will be good for you.
And as scary as it is to take that first step of reaching out to get help for menopause or get help with your finances, because you may be lacking that confidence initially.
Yes.
But like you said, actually having that plan and making positive steps in the right direction gives you really good puppy vibes, endorphins, and actually helps you to gradually build your confidence, doesn't it? Do you see that in the women that you
I see that a lot, and I see that the more that you start talking about whatever it is, whether it's your finances or menopause, other things that are happening in your life, the more you're able to share your story and raise your voice, the more women come to you and say, hey, I heard you talking about your menopause symptoms of not sleeping. I'm not sleeping. What did you do? And really sharing those experiences, it does, it builds your confidence. All of a sudden you become someone that people want to ask questions to.
Yeah.
Instead of being that person that's like, oh, I'm not sleeping, are people knowing that I'm not sleeping? You become the person that said, hey, I'm not sleeping and this is what I'm doing.
And like I said, it should be a taboo topic, because almost every woman is going to go through this to some extent.
Well, but it's not almost, it is every woman.
Every woman is going to go through this to different extents.
To different degrees.
Different degrees.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the things that I love is the name of your business.
Yes.
So explain that to me. So Mimi Moon Meno. I love the M&M.
Yeah. So Mimi Moon Meno. Mimi is actually the name that my family call me. No one in my family calls me Megan.
Oh, there you go.
So I've been Mimi my whole life.
Yeah.
Moon because, well, your life is a cycle, periods are a cycle, menopause is a cycle, but actually my maiden name is Luna. So I've lived by the moon my whole life. And Meno because of menopause. And Megan Hayward menopause didn't have the same ring as Mimi Moon Meno. And then my mantra being movement, mindset, modify, it just all sort of flowed from there. So that's why I'm Mimi Moon Meno.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think it's so great that you've provide such a wonderful service to women to help them thrive through this period of their life, because it should be an exciting period of time in our life. It's normally the time in a woman's life when, if she has been a mum, she can start to get some time back for herself. And like you mentioned earlier in the session, to actually take care of yourself.
To take care of yourself. But the other thing I wanted to say as well is that part of the stigma around menopause has been ageing. And previously for our mothers, they didn't want to talk about it because it was like, oh wow, you're in menopause, it was a negative thing. But what people don't realise is that the survival of our species actually relies on the postmenopausal women. So it's our knowledge, our sharing of knowledge, helping to bring the next generation forward, that actually helps our species to survive. And the only other non-domesticated mammal that happens with is with orca whales.
Okay.
And pilot whales from Japan.
There you go.
And so when you look at those species, particularly the orcas, they are run by women. Their whole pod is matriarchal lineage, as opposed to us where we're patriarchal. So we need to change the focus. It is, like I said, because of us, because of our knowledge, we created the species through pregnancy. And you know, I'm not disregarding women, but I just want to focus on that.
Yeah.
It is a really important time. You've learned a lot, you know a lot to have got to here, and the fact that you are here is actually a privilege. So really embrace it, really enjoy it. And like you say, take that time for yourself, take that time to focus on what you need. And by looking after yourself, you can look after others and pass on that knowledge to the next generation. Yeah.
I really love that, Megan. I think that's a really great place to end this. I feel like we could talk about this topic all day. But I think it's been a really good topic, and I hope that what our viewers today get out of this is to really start to take an active awareness of where you are in your life, both from a health perspective and a finance perspective, and understand that the two are related.
Yes.
And generally, you know, if you're doing well in one, you're doing well in the other. You need to sort of be doing well in both to be able to thrive through this period of time. Make sure that you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And make sure that you realise that you're not alone.
Exactly.
You know, that's a really big important takeaway I hope that people are going to take from this, is that there is help available.
Yeah.
There is the support that you need. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Don't do this alone. And like I said, we're going to have the blog post up soon on the Rise High website. We're also going to have the video of this on our YouTube page, Rise High TV, so you'll be able to rewatch the video or share it. We'd love you to share it with other women that you know that may be going through a similar period of time or period in their life, maybe sort of experiencing some of the symptoms, because we'd love them to have that as well.
Yeah.
And there will be a great free giveaway that you'll be able to access from the blog post, and that has all of the symptoms and as well as lots of survival tips. So lots of value there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Megan, for being part of the session today. You were wonderful, wonderful wealth of knowledge, and we'll see you all again next time. Thank you and bye.